Hello everyone, welcome to the new video on my channel. In this one I will be analyzing my best game from yesterday's titled Tuesday. Yet again I will be trying a new format, so it's my third recap, and for the third time the format changes. In this one I will analyze the game without including any clip from yesterday's live stream, so you can just hear my analysis afterwards. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so we have e4. After 3 games played by myself with d4, I opted for playing the last 2 with e4, and the Sicilian was played by my opponent. I opted to go for the open Sicilian because I am playing the higher rated opponent, therefore I want to learn something or hopefully win a game. And there was the Sveshnikov variation played. I don't really like playing against those, but thankfully last week I was preparing my student for the over the board game, so I was going through the variations and it was fresh in my memory. So I knew that we play knight d2 b5 and all other moves are standard ones, but at this point this is the move that is not seen so often. Usually at this point black goes for the bishop g5 move and then for the castle, after which we usually get to such position. Obviously we can, instead of placing the knight here, go a4 or h4, so there are plenty of moves and ideas. However, I will not get into that because during the game knight e7 was played. It's not so common move, but as I've said, thankfully I was looking at this just this week, or rather previous week, and also I was looking at my own idea that I found like over the decade ago during my OTB game. Obviously it's not like mine idea, but the idea that it's not the most common one, and I liked that. So the idea was to take on f6 and play g3, trying to place the bishop on the long diagonal and fight for the long diagonal with the bishop that will most certainly go to the b7 square. So we got to this position. Obviously I cannot take the pawn because of the pin, so instead of that I defend the pawn on e4. h5 was a already new move for me, therefore in here I had to think for a little bit longer. The idea is that I don't really want to stop the h-pawn with my h-pawn because it would weaken my g3 square, perhaps later leading to some pressures if the opponent pushes f4 in some time, or let's say firstly exchange those pawns and then push the other pawn to f4. I wanted to not allow that, and I chose the knight c2 move, just retreating the knight back into the game as I would usually do, waiting for my opponent to tell me his plans. His plans are obvious. He pushes h4. As of now my bishop might feel a little bit stuck there because h3 might be coming, but I thought that placing my bishop on f3 would be actually a good thing there because my queen protects the bishop. Therefore I then would be allowed to finally take on f5 because the bishop is protected. With that in mind, I just went for the long castle, and my opponent opted for queen b6. It is considered a mistake, but there are many nuances to it. So instead of that, I will just briefly explain my idea for the later stages of the game, because this move seems logical since it's hitting the f2 pawn and it's protecting the b7 bishop, still having an eye on the d6 pawn, so it seems fine. My idea was to yet again play bishop f3, even though the h3 move was not played. Computer likes f4 move more with the similar idea, because the idea is to have the bishop defended so that I can later on exchange on f5. That's why in general queen b6 is not considered the greatest move. Queen c7 from the opponent would be better, perhaps because it also has an eye on the e5 pawn. For example, after queen b6 takes, let's say take d5, the queen being on c7 would help black to create some pressure on e5 and f4 squares. That's what I believe in. I'm not sure if that's the case because I don't want to get into too much detail, because those are the very deep nuances. So anyway, queen b6 was played, bishop f3 was played, but computer liked the f4 move more, mainly because of the queen c6 move, which yet again pins the pawn to the bishop, so e takes f5 is not possible yet again. But my opponent went for f takes e4 himself, and that is when the fun starts to happen. Obviously I recaptured, and after d5 I spotted that this move actually weakens the e5 pawn, so indeed having queen on c7 would be very useful for the opponent. So I went for the sacrifice. If you want to attack the opponent, you have to try to spot some patterns, and in here I've spotted a very known pattern, which is queen on e5 will give a check to the king placed on e8, and the rook on h8 will be also attacked. Therefore it's a classical double attack. I want to go for it. So I started with bishop takes d5. It may seem as a very bad move, mostly because, well, I'm just giving up the bishop, which is protected once and attacked twice, but the idea is that behind it there is a brilliant move. I wanted to show this game mostly because I wanted to brag about this brilliant sacrifice. What is that all about? Basically the idea is that after knight takes d5, queen takes e5, I deliver not only double attack but also triple attack, to be honest, and I've calculated this line obviously before sacking on d5, because the only move right now for black is to play king to d7 so that the rooks are protecting each other. After queen e6 the knight is covered, the king is covered, but after queen h8, queen a8 I am getting both rooks. So after king d7 I grab on d5, and I haven't calculated this line until the end, but intuitively I thought that this king will have no option to really survive, mostly because he's wide open, right? So some sample lines that I can give you is, for example, queen d6 covering the check, then I can just deliver queen b7 check, queen c7 will not work due to the rook d1 check, and the queen on c7 will be lost, therefore king has to go to the e file. If he goes to e8 I can grab the rook and then in the other, so similar stuff. So king e6 is the only move, but as you can see, king going up the board, it's never a good idea, therefore I don't really have to find a checkmate as early as now. I can do it later, but if I will just keep on delivering the checks, I can deliver the check here after king f6, queen f3, and with that, if the king goes here I can deliver the fork there. If the king goes here, yet again knight f5 is coming, and if the king goes somewhere else, I yet again have plenty of options. Computer suggests g takes h4, which will introduce another piece to the attack, so I'm winning in a countless ways. So with that in mind, queen d6 does not work, and if the king goes to c7 trying to hide from all those open files, I can just try to take there, king b8, and now simple calm move like knight d4 or knight b4 or maybe rook e1, rook d1. I would consider all the options, and this is the position that I saw during my calculations before sacking on d5, and I was happy with the situation. I thought, okay, if I will get to this, I am happy about the position, so perhaps I will be winning objectively, and then practically also it's very easy for me to continue. For black it's really not. So why is that an inaccuracy then? Well, because black had an amazing defensive resource, which is queen h6. You may say, okay, what's that all about? Well, the very important thing is that thanks to the check, black gets a tempo, and this tempo is used to protect the h8 rook, meaning that if I go, for example, with the king b1 move, after now take, in here knight e7 might be played, covering the check, and as you can see, the king is alright, knight is alright, and also the rook is protected. That's why I don't win the game on the spot. However, as you can see, evaluation is still not in my favor, but I have playable position, mostly because my initiative is so big, but my opponent did not know what's going on, so basically he took the bishop with no thinking at all, and after this brilliant move he now goes into the tank, meaning that he's thinking and thinking and thinking, and in the end he did not accept the sacrifice but played a move like f6. Actually it's a good move, but practically speaking the game is over, since after my sacrifice I have two more pawns, the king is still weak there, so just going back with the rook, exchanging then and getting the control over the white squares, the d file and so on, allowed me to win the game effortlessly. The opponent also went with the harakiri mode and freestyle, and I don't even know how should I describe this, but what I mean is that he played b4 trying to scare me at some point, but obviously I can happily grab the rook, and at this point I have the root back for the queen. And I just wanted to show you the position that occurred at the very end of the game, because after a nice queen b3 check, the king is right in the middle of the board and is surrounded by my pieces, has nowhere to go. Knight d5 is the only move that can make the game a little bit longer, but obviously on d5 I then exchange all the pieces and win easily. So that's the game. I'm very proud of this, mostly about this sacrifice, but also about the knowledge in the opening. Thankfully I studied my openings a few days back, so guys, remember, it's important to know your stuff when you are going into such sharp Sicilian defense. And that's that. Thanks for watching. If you liked the game and my coverage, let me know in the comments, leave a like and subscription. Also, I will be very thankful if you can comment on the format, because as you can see, I did not include any clip from the live stream today. Maybe it's working for you, let me know. We'll see each other shortly in the next video. Bye.